Lights out, green flag, here we go. You pay for the whole seat, but you're only gonna need the edge.
The Thunder Road Podcast, telling the stories of the South Texas racers from the past and present.
Hello, my name is James Parks, and welcome to another episode of the Thunder Road Podcast. I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors, Top Hat Signs and Designs, Proline Fabrication, 112 Bodies, S&S Monuments, and Rich's Billiards. On this episode, we have Bobby Jack, the man with two first names. Well, Bobby Jack, welcome to the Petronio Posse Race Car Shop. We turned the AC on for you. I don't know if you noticed or not. It's only 90 degrees in here. It could be hotter. Man, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the Bobby Jack that we don't know.
Well, the first thing is Jack is my last name. A lot of people don't know that. They think Bobby Jack is my first name, and Jack's my last name.
You're the man with two first names.
Yeah. And Bobby's not my real name. Robert is my real name, so I'm technically Robert Jack. But man, racing is in my blood. I can tell you that. I didn't get started until I was in my 30s, but I was a fan in the stands watching for quite a few years. Before that, I water skied twice a week.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty fun. But
you had your own skis, your own boat, the whole deal?
Yeah. Had a couple buddies. We went on Wednesday night after work and Saturday or Sunday every weekend.
And race cars messed that up, huh?
Oh, our race cars ruined that. The boat, I still got a boat. It don't work.
Not the same boat.
No, not the same boat, but it still don't work.
Well, let's back up a minute. So you're obviously from the Coastal Bend area, but not from Corpus. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Denver, Colorado. Moved to Texas when I was a baby, 6-8 months old. Moved to Rockport, Texas when I was in first grade, and that's where I grew up. That's where I lived until 2010 when I moved out by the lake.
Yeah.
But yeah, went to Rockport High School. Didn't quite graduate. Other things became more important, working and hot rodding, and just, I don't know, things kind of fell apart. My parents divorced.
Life happens.
Yeah, school wasn't on the important list at that time. Wish I'd have done things a little different, but too late to go back.
We live and we learn. It made you who you are today. Nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
At that point, so you're kind of rebel rousing, kind of doing hot rod stuff, different things like that. And how did you end up at the Speedway? How did you necessarily end up deciding that circle track racing was your new home?
I watched a little bit of NASCAR on TV, and then heard there was a track in Corpus, and went over there and was hooked. Took the wife, and she liked it. She was a big Joey Heineman fan.
The legend.
Oh yeah, it was when he was young too. Drove that old red Chevelle, if I remember it.
Tell us a little bit about the CC Speedway that you saw. Round about what time was that?
I started in '99, so I was probably going to watch in mid-'90s, I would say, 94, 95. I think it's been a while.
Yeah.
But it was pretty good racing. They had about 3 classes, I think, but I loved it when Romco came to town. We watched the big boys race.
That was like NASCAR.
It was like NASCAR to me, and I had my hero, of course. I worked for Ford pretty much my whole life. So when John Kelly would show up with a Ford against 20 Chevrolets, well, I was a John Kelly fan, and
he was the one to cheer for.
He was, and he always ran good down here in Corpus, and I always questioned, well, if a car runs that good, how come nobody else drives a Ford? And then later on, I think Slick Yeomans had a Ford, but there was not many Fords that raced, and that's what I always wanted to race, was a Ford.
Yeah.
I worked for Ford, but the few that I saw race were in the back and were competitive.
But there was some Ford racing when you were growing up with your dad.
Yeah. He raced when he was younger, until he had children. But drag racing, though, he didn't He didn't know anything about rounding round. And just my mom and I watched it a little bit on TV, and that got me hooked. I sat in the stands for quite a few years wondering how in the world I could go from the stands to, because I didn't, I know how to make them run. I didn't know anything about making them turn.
So how did that transition happen? So you're obviously sitting in the stands. Miss Karen is a Joey Heineman fan.
Yeah.
So how did that transition from sitting in the stands, watching what you wanted to do, to actually being able to do what it is you wanted to do?
Well, at that time, Les Cole was racing dirt at Riverside, I think. I never went over there, but his shop was right down from my house. So I'd hear him when they were revving engines and stuff, and I'd swing by every once in a while and watch. And I was at CC Speedway one night, and here's Les Cole out there in a demolition derby with a two-door Chevy Malibu. And he got hit twice. The engine died, and then it didn't get hit anymore. So after the race, I'm like, what are you tearing up a race car body for? And he says, well, you said you were looking for a Ford. So, well, there's no Fords out there. So I'll sell you that one. So that week he delivered it to my driveway and started working on it. I bought a Dave Motorsports cage, and every day I'd come home and weld and weld and weld.
Karen help you?
No, she didn't work on it much. She was there for moral support and money. She did without a lot of things when we were doing race cars. And I had some friends that they just showed up at the house, and turns out they worked with Steve Grants, worked for Steve Grants in the Navy, and they were, he was racing. So they gave me pointers on how to make it turn. And I took it out there. I actually had the opportunity to drive a friend's car. My car wasn't quite done. I needed a few weeks to finish it. And I went over to his house, helped him work on it, got it ready. We took it to the track, started in the back, about 30 cars. 3 laps in, I'm getting lapped. And the car was terrible. I was terrible. At the end of the night, I was ready to be done racing cars.
So that could have been the turning point for you.
That could have been a turning point, but I couldn't, because I had 3 months invested in money, and so I couldn't back out then. And when I got my car ready and took it out there, it was way better. It just drove so much better.
Do you think driving that gentleman's car made you want to do better with your car, to understand that there was better things out there, or?
I don't think so.
No?
I just couldn't get out at that point. I was already committed. But I'm glad, because my car it drove so much better.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the setup right. I had more horsepower than it had handling. I don't know what it was, but my car just drove so much better. I know that back then everybody was running Goodyear Allegra tires. We got them at Sam's Club. Well, the car I drove didn't have those tires on it.
They have Cooper Cobras on it?
Something like that, But they had to run a 75 series, so it's hard to find a decent tire.
Yeah. No, I think that was the deal with CC Speedway, why there were so many cars, because the tire bill was cheaper.
Yeah.
I think overall the expense of the cars was where the normal guy could afford it.
Yeah. We didn't take the bodies off for the frame or nothing. You cut some holes and weld it in there the best you could, and cut the roof off and stick the cage in there and weld it back on and put some rivets. They were pretty basic bomber cars.
Knock the glass out, knock the chrome out, put a seatbelt in it.
Yeah.
So
I had a regular seat the first year. I ran about 5 races the first year.
So this is with the same car that was in the demo derby.
Oh yeah.
So it made it through the demo derby. You worked the Bobby Jack Magic on it.
Yeah.
You took it out there and
painted it Ford blue, put a Ford emblem on it.
Of course you did.
Yeah. And had people ask me what it was. Well, that's a Ford Malibu. They're like, what? It's a Ford Malibu. And the car was good. It had a 305 in it with a flat cam. I just put a camshaft in it and ran it the first year like that. And the next year in the wintertime, I built a 350 in the garage, just it worn out, just honed it out, rings and bearings, and put it together. And it didn't take much time, and I won a race, won a couple of heat races, and then I won a feature. It's kind of funny, the first feature that I won, I shouldn't have won.
A win's a win, Bobby.
I took it, but John Lee was actually leading the race, and I had started pretty close to the back and worked my way up to the front. There was about 30 cars, so they had trouble keeping it organized. And I get up, we have a caution, and everybody's riding around under caution, and John Lee is excited about leading, I guess. So he takes way off, you know, and I just slowed down. Everybody piles up behind me, you know, and then they're lining us up, and Dan Moreau's out there. He's running the track. And I pulled up and stopped. He was pointing at me, you know. And I said, well, no, John Lee's the leader. He says, you are the leader. I said, all right, I'm the leader. And so John ended up he ended up in the back. I don't know where he finished. But it wasn't but about 5 laps left, and I was able to win the race. And
Carried the flag, got the trophy. Trophy girl? Was there a trophy girl there?
no, we didn't have a trophy girl.
What did it feature pay back then?
I think it was $200. It was $200, and the heat races paid up to $30, I think.
Oh, yeah?
They paid first, second, and third.
So you were hooked at that point.
Oh, yeah, I was hooked. We made money that night if we didn't count any of the expenses.
The numbers never add up. Don't ever add them up.
They don't add up.
So from there, where did we go? So now we're heat racing feature winners. Now we're hooked. Hook, line, and sinker. Boat's gone. Skis are gone.
Yeah, they're still sitting there. They're just junk. I still got all the skis in the attic. Can't sell them. Nobody wants them. But yeah, I ran that car for probably 3 or 4 years and won a lot of races with it. Started building a new one. I was going to move up to the next class, build me a street stock. Well, as the rules started progressing and they got better, the car I was building was a pure stock.
Yeah.
Which they switched from bombers to pure stock.
The rules kind of changed around you at that
Yeah.
point.
So built a new car, and it was pretty good. But there was at the end of the year, Owen got involved in the track, and he always ran big races. So at the end of the year, they'd have these big races, pay extra money and stuff. I remember one night, Jimbo Myers was always really fast. And we qualified and everything, and I think he had a problem in the heat race, so he had to start in the back, and I started maybe in the top 5. And we ran about 25 laps, and I think we were running 30 laps. There was a couple laps to go, and I looked in my mirror, and I saw him coming. I was like, oh, here he comes, you know, and then he didn't have a problem giving you a solid bump and coming around.
He one time bumped my car and shortened it 2 inches.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So we were coming down the back straightaway. We'd taken the white flag, and he was close. And I go into 3, and I braked about 20 feet early. And he hit me hard. And the car got sideways. I punched it, stood on it, just basically drifted all the way around the corner to the flag stand, you know, and got the win. And we were in tech, you know, and he come over, man, you know, I had to try. I said, I knew you were going to. I just made sure I was going slow enough that I could hang on to it when you tapped me. And
I drove a car for Daryl and Donna Miller one time, and it was a pure stock, and it had that rear view mirror in there.
Yeah.
And Gene Hyde, he was pretty quick too, and I was not, but I was leading the race, and I came off a 4, you know, where Jimmy Hoffa's buried, a little hump there.
Yeah.
And I looked at that rearview mirror, and all I saw was Gene Hyde coming, and I said, I don't want to see this, and I moved that mirror where I couldn't see. In the next corner, I was in the wall.
Yeah.
He told me I was in his way. I didn't understand why he couldn't use the rest of the track, but that's neither here nor there.
We got invited to the San Antonio half-mile track for Oktoberfest. I'm thinking this is probably around 2001 or 2. They were trying to start a class like our bomber class, so they invited us up there to run, and then they allowed some dirt cars from the dirt track over there to come run in that same class.
Now, had you been to the half mile before?
Seen racing, but never been on it. And everybody local was putting 308 gears in their rear end. We all ran turbo 350s. You couldn't run a power glide back there. Everybody was putting 308 gears in. I couldn't find any at the time.
Well, you probably set all those gears up for the most.
Some of them.
I would suspect.
My brother says, well, why don't we just order some gears? Just get some new ones. Well, you know, at $150, I'll pay for half. He says, what gear do you think we need? I said, well, if everybody's putting in 308s, let's put in 323s. Get a little more out of it, you know.
Don't tell nobody.
And put that in there. We go out there and practice in the heat races, and I come in and some guy from the track up there comes over and says, "Man, y'all can't run 3 wide. You can't run 3 wide up here." I said, "We run 3 wide at CC Speedway. That's weird. It's like a freeway up here. We got plenty of room."
Don't mind the dip in the back straightaway.
Yeah, so there ain't no problem. I didn't qualify that good, didn't run that good in the heat, but come feature time, I hammered down on that thing.
She was trucking, huh?
I won the race the first time ever on that track, and it's a pretty important
Oh yeah,
milestone for me.
that's a big deal.
Track is closed now, you know. It was a big win. Then after that, lots of problems at CC Speedway, and Owen opened up the dirt track, so we made the transition from pavement to dirt. And
Was that a smooth transition for you?
it was, because I had run a couple enduro races over there with the same car, the 300 lappers, and I had won 2 300 lappers.
Oh wow.
And I'd won back then. I think Joey called me the Enduro King. I won.
You're slow dabbling in some enduros now.
Yeah, I am. I didn't go last year. That was the first time in a while. They've gotten too fast.
Yeah.
They're so fast, and takes a lot more money. Just not really that interested anymore. It's too much. But I did pretty good over there at the dirt track. Got going, and I ran probably a couple of years, and CC Speedway got going again. And I'm like, man, I'm going to run a super street at CC Speedway. So I sold my car. I bought a Camaro from Troy Vela. It was all together. It was all there, but it wasn't ready to race. So I took it home, went to CC Speedway that
The
night.
parts are there just needed some work.
Yeah, it needed some things. They didn't run quite right. I don't know. It needed a little work. So I made a list, went to CC Speedway that night, and at the driver's meeting, Carol Yoakum says, "Well, we're closing early this season. Next week's gonna be our last race." And I'm like, man. So that Camaro became a dirt car. I ran it a little bit with the hobbies. It wasn't enough, and sold it. And went back to pure stock again. And had a lot of success with the pure stocks. That was fun. Then, I don't know, got to move up. Decided I had to have a sport mod. At the time, sport mods were getting rolling. All the big guys had modifieds.
Yeah.
So sport mod was a beginner class. So I got me a sport mod, got working on it. Modifieds, gone. No more modifieds.
Now all of a sudden there's
Everybody's got a sport mod. I'm starting scratch in the back, trying to learn how to drive it, trying to learn how to set it up, getting run into, getting run over. You know, they send the guy in the front would spin out, they send him to the back, and he'd run into me, passing me in the back. You know, and all I did for that whole year was work on that car. And I was almost never made any improvements because all I was doing was fix tore up.
Yeah.
And it was not much fun.
So you decided Stalkers was where Bobby Jack needed to be at that point, or?
Yeah. I ended up with 2 sport mods, and I let Jason Kelly take one and run it up there at Pleasanton. And I ended up selling the other one. It became an E-mod. Went back to Stalkers. You know, at some point, I do have to mention that my wife won the Bomber Championship at the dirt track in 2006.
Was that with the car that was 2 different colors?
Yeah, the black and red one.
So one side was Dale Earnhardt, the other side was Dale Jr.
Yeah, it was black on one side with a 3, and it was a 3 and an 8. It looked like 38, but it was 3 and 8.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it was red, you know, with a 3 and an 8. So, and we split it right down the middle. At that time, I was running a pure stock. And
So what was that like with yourself racing, and then wife racing,
wife racing,
And-
son-in-law was racing.
and y'all aren't just like a mile or 2 down the road, like it's a
It
home
was Rockport. It was a haul. And
commitment.
it was every day, come home from work on the car. You know, the year my wife won the championship, I worked on hers first. A lot of time my son-in-law's second, and then my car kind of got neglected. It'd get worked on if we had time. But I enjoy working on the cars. It's a lot of fun to see your cars being successful.
Yeah.
So I was willing to take a back burner for a while because I'd been racing. I'd won races. And then I had limited late models.
I still have one. If you'd like to have one, I
still have one too. It's worked. That's what we were using for the enduro race.
I've thought about that. I thought that man, my limited late model would make it a nice enduro car.
Perfect. I know the quick changes. There's a few guys still running the quick changes, but I think the 9-inch is just tougher.
Yeah.
But yeah, limited late models. So I got some old wore out car from guy out in Orange Grove. Put it together. Didn't have near what I needed. Went out there and struggled. And had some fun, but not much success. I think I won a heat race and made Ziggy Reeser mad because I blocked him. And he come over and fussed at me. I said, dude, I've never won a heat race in these cars. I'm fighting for that win.
It's a Daytona 500.
Yeah. And in the off season come along, and I had a opportunity to buy a car that I'd seen win a lot of races. Jensen Prey.
Yeah.
He had the car for sale. It was more than I could afford, but I got in touch with him, and he took off enough parts to where we came to a price that I could afford.
Pretty much when Jensen rolled in with that car, he was going to the front. There was no catching him for the most part.
It was fast. They spent a lot of time on setup, and I didn't change the setup. I left the setup the same. I had to put shocks on it because he kept the shocks. But I put a street stock motor in it and went out there the first night and got run into it, a heat race, got a flat tire, had to start in the back. Maybe 15, 16 cars. I don't know what the 30-car field. But with 2 to go, I was in third, and the leaders were battling on the bottom. And I went around them on the outside, and it stuck. And I just stood on it and won that first race. And once again, hooked on this now. Here we go.
Well, it was running at the half mile on the high side that you knew would stick, huh?
Yeah.
And that car, so how long did we keep that ride?
I kept it for a couple of years, won quite a few races with it. And then
still with the same motor? Or you finally built a motor for it?
I bought a motor from
you found a Ford to stick in there?
Robert Elizondo had a motor. He'd been pavement racing with it, I think. So I put that motor in there, and I did build another one. Robbie Adams built my motors back then. I built them early on, but then went to Robbie Adams. He started building them after that. But yeah, it was the beginning of the season. I don't remember what year it was. The car was ready. We were going to go run Goliad, and I got the call that I had to go pick up my granddaughters. So I took the car to Goliad, dropped it off, and Jason Kelly came and he raced it. And I had to go up to, on the other side of Austin to see the girls.
Yeah.
And I was in contact with him. They said, oh, yeah, he won the heat race. Man, he's starting on the pole, blah, blah, blah. So we went and did our thing, and I got back to the hotel. And I looked at my phone, no texts, no phone calls, didn't hear anything. Phone.
It's either good or real bad.
It was real bad. So I called first thing in the morning, and I called my buddy Danny.
Did you even sleep that night?
Yeah, I was tired. I slept. I tossed turned a little bit. And I called my buddy Danny. Said, well, what story? He's like, well, Jason didn't call you? No, Jason didn't call me. So he got turned on the first lap of the feature, and the last place car smashed into him head on, and it's jumped. Great. Okay. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah. Headed back down, stopped in San Antonio, picked up what was left of it, took it home, and then adopted my 3 granddaughters.
You know,
so that I needed a little break anyway because I had to add on to the house and put the car back together.
Actually, the girls were young back then. They were I don't know exactly how old they were, but I remember when that was happening, they were pretty young. And it was a life-changing deal for you and Karen, too.
It was big life change. You know,
Yep.
we had moved out to the country, going to be a retirement place out there. Had a big shop, small house. It was 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath, and it's 4-bedroom, 2 bath now.
Yeah.
I had to do some adding on, and it was a setback. But
All for the right reasons.
yeah, I brought the car home, and it just sat there for a while. And Jason said, "Well, me and my uncle can, chop the front end off of there and fix it." I said, "Well, okay, I'll bring it back to you." So I took it back to them, and they fixed it.
Did you even wash it? Sleeve it?
Yeah, I washed it. I put it inside. It was still inside, but
I didn't know how mad you were at it. Just leave it on the trailer.
no, I put it inside. But I just couldn't. I didn't have time or money to do anything with it at the time.
Yeah.
And they offered to fix it. Okay, so when I got things back settled down, well, I took it out and raced it, and I think it blew up in the heat race. I think it blew the motor up. I don't know. I've been sitting for a year and a half, and I had a fresh motor that was ready to go in it, and I just wasn't interested. I called Jason Kelly, said, I'll take half of what I paid for the car. You can have it, all the spare parts, and put your motor in it.
Lost its luster.
Yeah, it probably could have been fine again at some point, but I didn't want to do it. I was disappointed.
Yeah.
So I pulled the blown up motor out, sold him everything else the way it was. And he raced it for a couple of years up in San Antonio. And of course, then the class changed to late models. Not
Yeah.
limited late models weren't competitive anymore. So I had to have one of those. That wasn't much fun that year. Just didn't have the money or the knowledge. The late model suspension, just so much different.
Yeah.
And I
No,
don't-
it's so advanced. I don't know that a normal person without having some help or just somebody to lean on can.
Yeah, I didn't have any help. Nobody. I could call people, but they're all different. So they want to know smash rates on the springs and stuff now. I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have any access to any of that. And being out there where I'm at, not really much help around that I knew. So I ran it for about a year. Then at the beginning of the next season, Jason Kelly crashed the car he was racing. And I said, "Hey, just happen to have one."
I have an idea.
So he came that week, picked it up, sold it to him dirt cheap. And he had to come back with a truck, fill it up with all the spare parts. And I was
You were done.
done with that. So unfortunately not done now, but just went back to let girls racing and me racing occasionally their cars.
So let's talk about the girls
stock-
racing. So you had 3 granddaughters.
3 granddaughters.
As you were raising these girls, I'm going to assume, and I'm just speaking from what I saw, they basically became your daughters.
Yeah.
You helped.
Helping my daughters.
Yeah, you helped 2 of them. They were old enough to get into race cars.
We started with the oldest one first. She was 14, I think, and I got a Caprice, big old heavy car,
Yeah.
put a whole wore-out motor in it, had a really good roll cage. I put her out there making laps, and she loved it. And she helped me work on the car. And
What was your thoughts why this is happening though?
well, their dad had raced too. He was the son-in-law that I'd helped before. So
Yeah.
it was in their blood. They were raised at the track.
Yeah, but it's your grandkid, it's your daughter at this point.
Yeah. I didn't have a problem with it.
No.
My wife was nervous about it. I wasn't nervous. I was a little nervous when they flipped upside down. That's a little
I think there was a
nerve-wracking.
tractor tire involved.
Yeah, there was a tractor tire. I can't even remember which one it was that rolled it, but I think they both rolled. I think Emma rolled one of them, and Alexis rolled the other one.
Well, they didn't want each other to outdo each other, so
And I still got Lila. She's 15 and she wants to race. But yeah, so Alexis got to where she was pretty good. So we got a better car, started working on it in the wintertime, and started getting Emma ready to drive the other one. Of course, that pretty much means I'm not going to be racing. There's no way we can't get them to the track, much less have a third car. And
no, but it's got to be a satisfying feeling to be able to see the girls out there.
wait, it's just as good as racing.
Yeah.
To me, it's just as much fun as long as I'm going to go anyway. So, I need to take a car. So as long as somebody's racing, I'm happy.
So in your eyes, as long as you were supporting and having a good time, you were good with that.
Oh yeah. Plus us keeping them out of trouble, keeping them interested in something.
Yeah.
You know, they loved it. You know, I didn't make them do it. You know, I made them work on them.
Yeah.
You know, if they want to race, they had to work on them. And I made them hammer dents out, and we spray painted, you know, and we touched them up. And
It was probably more so the fact that they were putting the effort in. Yeah, I don't suppose that you were expecting them to do the heavy grunt labor, but
No.
just putting the effort in probably satisfied you.
sometimes I worked on the car while they rode the riding lawnmower and got the grass cut,
Hey, that worked.
because they both got to get done if we're going racing this weekend. So, you know, I gotta do this and this and this, and the grass needs mowing. You know, they put their headphones on. I had 2 riding lawnmowers, got pretty big yards, and they put their headphones on and go. They didn't like it, but they knew that's what needed to be done.
As a team, as a family, you were doing it together.
Oh yeah. So we put another car together. I can't even remember if Alexis actually got to drive it or not. She ended up going to live with my sister for a while. My sister lived up the country, and she was going through a tough time, teenage years, and my sister took her in and said, "Okay, that's fine." Like, well, Emma, looks like you got a new race car. You got to upgrade. So
So as the transition happened, Emma's into the new car. So does that put you back in the other car, or
Yeah.
were you used?
yeah, I drove the other car a little bit. I think at first we ended up with another car that old Jason Kelly had bought one from Dennis Desert Cup.
Yeah.
And so we had
Dennis
2 cars.
Ward?
Yeah, Dennis Ward. And I drove that one a few times. And while Alexis was driving the other one, and we got to race together. I think we were at I-37 then. They were running pure stocks up there. And I remember she had a heat race one time where she did better than I did in the heat race. And so come feature time, when I caught her, I bet it took me 2 laps to pass her.
Huh.
And she was in the big beast car.
Yeah.
I was in a better car.
It's probably gratifying though. Like, man, she was doing well.
She was doing well. They did good. I feel like if I'd have spent more money on the cars, maybe just didn't have it. You know, we're trying to have fun,
Yeah.
and
Well, with the expense of the 3 kids trying to just live a life, and a shop full of race cars.
they can't really communicate to you either what the car's doing. You know, if you watch, it helps.
Yeah.
You know, when I was racing against them, I couldn't really tell. But when I'd stay there and watch, I could see if the car was pushing.
Yeah.
But then I would go drive the car and it didn't really push. I would practice it and it's not pushing. So some of it was how they were driving it. You know, they weren't driving hard enough or weren't hitting the brake hard enough.
Yeah. Just
You
their
know,
experience.
lack of experience. And so it was different. You know, with Emma, we got Emma a better car later on. You know, got from you, as a matter of fact. Put her in that car and she did pretty good. And just couldn't win. I think she won a heat race, couldn't win a feature. And but she went off to college. I started driving the car a little bit. I couldn't win in it either. Like, well, maybe we're gonna have to work on that car a little bit. So I still haven't won in it, but we made it better. But that's the car that Lila's gonna drive if she ever helps me put a body on it. We have everything we need to put a body. We just need to get busy and work on it.
All the pieces are there. Just got to get up in this 110-degree weather.
Softball, you know, volleyball, you know, it's just one thing after another.
Yeah.
And we're living out in the country and then going to school in George West. You know, I mean, I leave work, go to George West, pick them up, bring them home. You know, time is limited.
No, we're experiencing that right now with Pistol. So Pistol obviously races a go-kart.
Yeah.
She's of the age now where she's playing volleyball. So it's trying to get to volleyball practice, trying to get to volleyball games, trying to get to the racetrack, trying to get my cars to the track or her go-kart to the track. And sometimes, you know, the life happens and we just have to say we can do one or the other, or we can half-ass them both. We got to figure it out. So it's part of growing up.
That's kind of where we are right now. She's doing the sports and she's doing good. So I'm not pushing the race.
Yeah. No.
It's not going anywhere.
If it's working out for her, let it be.
She talks about it. So when are we going to work on the car? I don't know. Okay.
When it's cooler
let me know.
outside.
You let me know.
So let's talk a little bit about the 600 Enduros, because you did quite a few of those. I know you said you took this last year off, but
Yeah.
you've been one of those guys that have been doing it for a little while, so you've seen the transition of that Enduro. It's a big event, it's a huge event in Texas.
When we first started out, we were racing at HRP in Houston. 300 laps on Friday night and 300 laps on Saturday night. And took just an old Monte Carlo with a decent motor in it, but stock rear end, and car was competitive, but we started 150, 160 cars in that race, and it was easy to get crashed.
Yeah.
And
So for the folks that don't know, you guys ran this thing basically caution free, unless
well, there's no cautions.
Okay.
It was either green or it's red. And they only threw the red if the track was blocked. They had a push truck to go out there with lights on the top of it, and he will shove you off the track. And I've got passed by the push truck before. Of course, it's a Ford, but the guy driving that, he's got some skill. He can drive, but with no yellows, it's tough, and you really need to spend some time on your seat, getting comfortable and getting some padding in it to where you can take the beating.
yeah,
That's another reason I'm not doing it, because it's hard.
yeah.
It's I have weak back anyway, and get out there for the rough tracks and long laps. Now last time I went, I got out at about 100 laps, and Hudson Meklicek got in the car.
He said that was enough.
Yeah, that's enough.
So tell us about the transition from when you first started that Enduro to this last time you went. You had mentioned earlier that the cars had gotten faster. I've seen some videos, and some of those cars look like they're running at race speed. And it's a wide variety of cars, too.
No, there's the biggest problem, I think, is there's some cars that are really slow and some cars that are really fast. And we always seem to be right in the middle,
You know,
and it's just hard because you come up on a slow car and you go around, and well, that fast car's coming around you and get run over.
the close.
About into, oh yeah. Like I say, we pretty much started out as stockers, but then they started running old modifieds and old late models, and then they started putting sprint car wings on them and big motors and 4 barrels and lots and lots of spare parts. They were coming from out of Iowa with tractor trailers with 3 cars in them,
Really?
with spare motors. They changing motors, I mean, they are set up, and we were poor boy, and
But
we
you have a
we
good
had
time.
a good time. It was family time. The whole family went.
Yeah.
The Saturday mornings were usually pretty rough, as we
Fixing in and repairing.
we drink a little bit of beer on Friday night, and then it's hot, and we'd have to work on the stuff the next day, and so then got the bright idea that I needed to take 2 cars.
Because you weren't punishing yourself enough.
Right, yeah. So I let a buddy of mine drive the other one, but I built a better car, took a limited late model, and made it, put a lot of extra bars around the tires and stuff, and put a big motor in it, and it was fast,
Yeah.
but still got to keep from getting crashed or having stuff break. The first night we broke a rear end, and the second night got right into with about 30 laps left to go, so didn't finish. Don't know, not sure where we would have finished, but
Yeah.
I think we'd have been in the money had we made that last 30, but it busted
was-
the spindle.
It wasn't just you from the Coastal Bend area. There was a handful of others that were going up.
Joey Heidemann went a lot. Daryl Prosick went a few times. Jamie Deere went. I think he drove Daryl's car. But Stefan Danielson, he's raced quite a few times.
And most of you guys had purpose-built cars. Once the stalker stage had kind of run out, most of you guys were building cars just for that.
Build one just for the enduro race and try to get some practice in 2 weeks before. Hope it didn't break, which that happened too. I was practicing at South Texas Speedway with that limited late model car, and the transmission blew out of it. It tore all kinds of stuff up, tore the rear end up and stuff. So they was, hurry up, you gotta fix it.
Time to go to work.
Yeah. But yeah, we, put rear ends in at the track, and you take everything you think of spare wise, spare pipe and spare sheet metal and spare rear ends and all kinds of suspension stuff. You need all that spare.
You probably need all that and then some,
But yeah,
I would imagine.
but one night at the Houston track, I think it was the second time I raced. I don't remember the first night or the second night. I got turned around, and it killed the motor. And I'm trying to start it. It's hard to get him to start, but you can't hear him. And there's cars going on the left and the right, and I'm facing the traffic. And I see this car coming, and I don't think he sees me. And my recommendation is don't run a black car. Paint it green or pink or something. Black is not good. And he smashed right into me head on. I had to just take my hands off the wheel.
The worst part is you saw it coming.
Saw it coming. And that, man, it totaled that car. This was Friday night. So get it towed over there, and I got hit in the back. The rear end's bent. The radiator's knocked out. The whole frame, the lower control arms are bent. Well, this guy comes by and says, man, we can fix that. We'll fix that. Oh, yeah. I'll bring some pipe and some sheet or some steel, and we can cut that off and weld a bumper on there. We can fix it. So we start drinking beer. We got the saws all out.
Liquid courage.
Cut it all to pieces. Got it all stripped down, and then drank a few beers and went to bed. Next morning, we're waiting on this guy to bring us the metal. We started working on stuff we can do, control arms and put a rear end in it, and waiting on this guy to bring us metal. He's not showing up with any metal. Finally, he shows up, but he doesn't have any metal, but there's a guy that does. Okay, so we go down there and buy a bunch of flat bar and some pipe, and end up buying an IMCA front bumper off of Sport Blotters.
Yeah.
And we welded. I had a spare radiator, welded. And when I rolled out on the track that Saturday, didn't have any front fenders or a hood. And they get out while they're lining everybody up. You get out, and I had some guys come over there and look at it. I said, don't touch that. That's hot. That's hot. We were just welding on that. Put that thing together, I think I ran about 150 laps, and the rear end broke. The spare rear end broke. Inside, my son-in-law comes when they towed it over there and said, man, what do you need? I said, well, the rear end's broke. We got another one? No, don't have another one. I'm going to go find one. I am done. I am ready to get out.
Did he find one?
We didn't. I was done.
You were done. You didn't give him the opportunity.
We watched the rest of that race. I think old Dave McGuire, he went to almost every one of them. I think he got the money that night just making laps. Wasn't fast, just didn't crash.
Yeah.
Really. And sometimes that's all you do. But it was that way to begin with. But there's fast cars now. Top 5 cars, well, they are super
It's a full-on race now.
And it, even when Lawrence McLachek went, he's like, yeah, they're going fast from lap 1.
Yeah.
They start racing.
I talked to Lawrence about putting a little stalker out there. He told me you ought to going to need to take a little more to that gunfight. So we haven't made it yet. Every year, Dudley and I both say, we're going to put the car together, and we never do.
They're changing the rules this year. It's going to be at, I think, Battleground Speedway.
Yeah. And
smaller track, and they're splitting the cars up and basically running heat races. They're going to be long races, but they're only going to take a certain number of cars and qualify out of each race to run the big feature. I don't know how that's going to work, so we're going to let them do that on their own this year, I think.
But it's not out of the cards yet. Maybe down the line, maybe back into that.
Somebody else will have to drive it. I'm not going to drive it. It's just too rough on me for the whole races. So
on a local level, what are we doing?
Nothing this year. I ran the Fireball at I-37 last year.
Yeah.
And had a little surgery this year before the season got started, and that set me back. I pulled the motor out of the Fireball, and a buddy of mine's buying it from me, paying me half the winnings. Each race, he wins money, I get half till he gets it paid for at a buddy price.
Yeah.
But I'm building a new Fireball. I've got it down to pretty much just wiring it and then putting a body on it. And I have everything I need. Just need a little less than 95 degrees weather.
Well, it's 94 right now in here.
94. It's a lot better car, a lot lighter car. It's a Destroyer chassis. And it was bent So I put a new frame. I just took the roll cage.
Yeah.
It was a Triton Temple's car, so it's a 2019 Destroyer.
The silver one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I put a new frame on it, and I think it's going to be a lot better car. Because that class has also stepped up too. You know, last year was new, and you know a lot of better cars this year. So
I think it's a neat little class. We've gone to 37 to run the sport model a little bit, and then I always try to get up there to watch those Fireballs. It kind of intrigues me a little bit. I like to see those old Camaros out there. I like to see some just stock cars, sometimes I'd say just some nasty stock car, street stock stuff, and that's what those things are.
That's the thing. It's a lot of street stock parts, you know, parts that I have on the shelf left over for years, you know. Don't have to buy a bunch of special parts like a factory stock car, you know. You need special stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, you know. I don't need any good stuff on that car because you have to run a 6600 chip. So that limits what you need motor-wise. So I got a big motor that'll turn 7800, but it'll run for a long time at 66.
Yeah. No, you're not able to use it all.
Not able to use it.
So back to your CC Speedway days and the days when you were kind of running around at the South Texas Speedway doing the dirt racing and stuff. What were some of your most memorable moments when you were running some of those stock cars or modifieds, limited modifieds, or even the limited late model stuff? What was some of your most memorable moments?
Well, I won the Pure Stock Championship in 08. That was the only championship I've ever won. I've been second for years in a lot of them. And after that, I made it a point to not run for points. And the first year in the limited modified, even though I didn't do very well, I still won Rookie of the Year. Just perfect attendance, I guess. I don't know. I showed up, I ran. I didn't break, you know. So the limited late model, I didn't win the championship, but I didn't run all the races, I don't think. I think I won Rookie of the Year in that too. I'm not sure. I think the most memorable was my wife winning the championship. You know, she was running with boys. It wasn't Powder Puff.
You know,
she was running against the boys, running against the guys.
No, I remember one night you came up to me and you said, "You need to talk to your dad." I said, "What did he do?" And you said, "He didn't took her door off."
Yeah.
I'll relay the message.
Yeah, I get a little emotional sometimes. More emotional when she was driving than when I drove usually, you know. And hell, my buddy Dave McGuire flipped her one night. He hit her in the back, turned her sideways, and didn't lift, and just kept pushing.
The thing about
Karen was pushed her over.
She wasn't scared. I mean, if she was, she never let us know. She was ready to just get out there and mix it up. She didn't care. She was just going to do her thing.
I cut the body off of that car, and I think we had 2 weeks to fix it. And I put a new body on it and spray painted it. The next race, you could tell it'd been upside down. I had a lot of spare Malibu parts back there.
Yeah.
But I'd put that car between the oak trees a few times and give a good yank with the truck, little torch and truck yanking. It didn't have any fancy frame machines. Actually, I did get to use a frame machine at work one time.
You probably didn't know what to do with it.
We figured it out, but I don't know if it was right or wrong. But
straight as how we were.
Well, it was straight enough to hold the bumper and the radiator. That's really all it needed in the front.
That's funny.
That old car was a good car. I ran a couple of enduro races with that car too. Won a couple of them. I remember one of the races. I won by a lot of laps, and it was right after we'd come from CC Speedway over here, and Owen had put a new rule in that you had to run a stock GM camshaft. Well, I didn't have time to get one or much less put one in, so I still had the Isky 39410 that we had been running in CC Speedway.
It was like the SL1, SL2.
Yeah, it was SL1, yeah. And I took the car out there, and they wet the track down. Was really muddy. So we started the race, and I went up and ran by the wall. And just ran by the wall the whole first. We did like 150 laps, I think, and then we stopped, or maybe it was 100 laps and stopped. And I lapped the field numerous times on the top where it was dry, just lifting, just going real easy, right next to the wall.
Yeah.
And they were down there churning in the mud, just slinging mud. Nobody could see. And my brother was running the old Cadillac that we had. And he finally, about the fourth or fifth time I passed him, he finally moved up and got behind me. So then at the little break, they give us a 15-minute break to put some fuel in and get some water. They went out there with a water truck and they watered the top of the track.
Oh, no.
Well, okay, so I go out there and I take off and I ran right by the tires because it was dry down there by then. And you got all these people up there trying to run the top because their guys had told, well, Bobby Jack's running the top. So I won that race by 14 laps. And Bruce Meadow come over and said, we got to check the camshaft. Got to check the camshaft. I said, okay, well, what are we checking for? Well, it's got to be a stock GM camshaft. I said, well, it's 394.10, but it's not stock. It's an Isky cam like we ran at CC Speedway last year. I'm going to have DQ there. Okay, I'd just soon not tear it apart. I'm telling you what's in there. I said, well, who's second? Well, your brother was second to Cadillac. Right on.
Win's a win.
So I go over to my brother and said, hey, you got to bring your Cadillac over there to tech so they can tech it. He said, I'm already loaded up. I said, dude, it's $1,000. I said, I'll help you unload. Let's get it over there to tech. So we go over there, pull the valve cover off, a 425 Cadillac motor.
Everybody has the specs for that.
And 2 push rods laying in there. You know, we pull them out. And I asked Bruce Meadow, I said, well, what's the lift on a Cadillac? I said, because you can look at this motor, it's pretty rusty. I don't think we're going to get the cam out, but we're going to check lift on it I said, well, what's the lift on a Cadillac? It's like, I don't know. So we got up there.
We're going to check it.
He put his gauge on it. We tried to turn it over. He ain't turning that thing over by hand at 425. And of course, it's 400 degrees.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Better days.
He went through the motions and said, okay, good to go. You know, and you know, that old thing was stock. We'd never done anything to it. You know, it was just a joke.
We had a lot of fun with our Cadillac too, but it had a 308 in it.
Yeah. It had a 307. Yeah. It had a 307 when I got it, and it was knocking.
Yeah.
So I had an older Cadillac that the frame was rusted out on. So I shoehorned the two together, had to drill holes in the flywheel to make the torque converter fit because it was a 425, and I had a turbo 200 transmission, some transmission that no good. Well, that car ran about 5 years with that transmission. It was still running when we got rid of it. Yeah. But we had to have a lot less gear in it, you know, to not turn the RPMs.
Yeah.
But that was, so the next race, the next enduro race, I pulled the 350 out and I had a stock 305, put it in the car, come out and won that race by about 4 laps. Said, okay, let's pull the camshaft. Yeah.
Don't want to see it.
Don't want to see it. Come on. Well, I think we pulled a couple shocks off or something. I pulled the old Red Riders off of it and went like that. Like,
good to go.
Okay, well, that's no good. And so I won that one. And I think the next time it rolled around, Owen says, well, what are we going to do to keep you from winning all them enduro races? I said, well, I don't know. We not show up for that matter. Well, no, I don't want that, but so I don't know. Owen, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like you just had a knack for it. You enjoyed it.
It was fun, you know, and I brought a car that was being raced regular.
Yeah.
You know, it was my wife's car. She drove it every other
week.
week.
You figured out early on how to take care of the car, how to take care of the equipment,
you know,
and you paid attention.
And a lot of people tried to build a car and go run an enduro race. Well, it falls apart.
Yeah.
You got to get the bugs worked out of them, and it's just too hard to. But it worked out pretty well.
No, you're known, Bobby Jack. You're known in the Coastal Bend area for being able to put stock cars together, being able to take a little bit of nothing and making something out of it. Everyone's always been able to say Bobby Jack is out there and he's going to race for everything he's got.
Yeah.
We've watched you on the dirt, on the asphalt, fenders, no fenders, but at the end of the day, I don't know that I've ever seen you really upset at anybody at the track, and I've never honestly had anybody that I know of that was upset at you. Like it's just one of those deals.
Probably made a few upset, but most of them I talked to.
You know,
and John Heidemann one night, I ran over him. Just the brakes went out on the car. It was a street stock shootout race. We kind of left all that out, but I did do street stock shootout for a few years. But the brakes went out, and I just ran him over, flattened his tire. We ended up in the infield. banged my door up, let me know he's unhappy. And we were buddies. We'd been friends for years. And he was frustrated, and and I tried to talk to him. He didn't want to hear it. And I told him, I said, man, the brakes didn't work. Why didn't you get off the track? Didn't think I needed brakes.
I didn't know I was going to run into you.
And I felt terrible. Felt terrible. I went home. It was a 2-day show, and it was a floater rear end and the right rear brake rotor. All the bolts had come loose on it, and it was falling off of it.
Yeah.
I lost brakes, so I came back the next night and ran. But yeah, there was a lot of times racing with friends that got a little tense sometimes.
Yeah.
You get out of the car, you back
nature
it. Yeah. My buddy Scott Dean, we raced a lot together, and Curtis King, we had some epic battles in the pier stocks out there at South Texas Speedway. And, every night it was one of us three who was going to win the race, and we were usually all three right there together battling. We'd cross the line. I remember going through the infield one night. I got knocked out of the way, and I think I was in the air about 3 feet or something other, but crazy. Made it, still finished third or something.
Well, even though you're not on the track every Saturday, your presence is still known out there. EJ won a feature the other night, and he thanked you on the front stretch.
I heard that.
Apparently, he had some rear end problems, and you came in clutch, and you got it fixed up for him. So he was
built one for him on Sunday morning, so he could get it put in another Sunday night.
But that's just the kind of guy you are. I don't think you've ever told anybody no.
And I do it at
something you had.
I do it at a portable rate. I'm not. That's not my business. It's in order for me to make a little beer money, a little race car money, and it helps the guys out. And it's local. It's easy.
Yeah,
close.
Well,
yeah.
Was this so bad? Was it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
No.
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
It's just a little warm.
Yeah, it's just a little warm, but I'm used to that. Working it all day, but.
So let's talk about that real quick, because you discussed this with me earlier. How long have you been at the dealership?
I've been at this AutoNation Ford here in Corpus for 22 years.
It's a long time.
And before that, I was at the Ford dealership in Aransas Pass for 12 or 13. I don't know. It's pretty much all I did in my adult life. I was 19 when I went to work at the Ford dealership over there. So that's pretty much all I've ever done is work on Fords. And that's part of an advantage with the race cars. Being able to fix cars helps. When your cars don't break, you have a better chance of being in the top 5.
Maintenance is a big deal.
Yeah. Maintenance is big. Sunday nights, Sunday afternoons, that's time to get the car out of the trailer, wash it up, and see what you got to do.
Yeah.
Because if you wait till Saturday when it's race day, it's too late.
It's too late.
You got to find out. You got to get an assessment. Am I going to be real busy this week, or I just need to?
You got to know where you're standing.
Do a little maintenance, knock some dents out.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you coming to the Petronia Posse Race Car Shop. We're super excited to have you here and to hear your stories and hear your racing experiences. Not necessarily just yours, but your daughters and your wife's and all of your buddies. There's a ton of stories out there, and you really only scratched the surface, I'm sure.
I got a lot more.
We appreciate you coming and sharing that with us.
I'd have to sit around and drink beer and then stop talking about the other stories.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there for sure one day. But with that being said, thank you for coming on the show.
And I appreciate you having me.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
As the checker flag flies in this episode, I'd like to take a moment to thank Bobby Jack for coming to the Petronia Posse Race Car Shop. I would also like to take a minute to thank our sponsors: Proline Fabrication, Top Hat Signs and Designs, S&S Monuments, 112 Bodies, and of course, Rich's Billiards.